Hey guys, welcome back. Alright, so yesterday we got our gas tank, the structure welded together, but what we haven't done is put these mounts on yet. So let me show you how this is going to work. So we talked about the fuel tank being in the front of the car where the crash structure is. Just behind the crash structure, as you can see. So the idea is that by keeping the gas tank in the front of the car, when you accelerate, the fuel tries to slosh backwards, which actually, so the fuel pump's going to be like right here. So that means the harder you accelerate, the more the fuel gets pushed into the fuel pump. That's good. If you put the fuel tank in the back of the car, obviously it's like backwards. The more you accelerate, the harder it is to get fuel to the pump. Now the second thing is gravity. So this gas tank is up high. So gravity also causes the fuel to want to flow down because the fuel pump is also below the gas tank. So this is kind of like the perfect location for a fuel tank to get fuel to the pump. But of course, being in the front of the car, a lot of times when you crash, not all the time, especially in drag racing, the back of the car does tend to hit the wall sometimes from the back end spinning. But anyway, if you do have a front end collision, the fuel tank's in the front, a little bit dangerous. So what we did, we obviously built a crash structure, but then let me show you this. So on the sides here, let me get a nice view. See these pieces? This is a piece of sheet metal. We've already got these cut, and then this is a piece of 1/4 inch stainless steel plate. So what we're going to do, these pieces, is we're going to drill this hole to tap drill size, and then thread this for 1/4 20 bolts. This little plate here, this is kind of a thin sheet metal. What we're going to do is we're going to put it generally in this location, make sure we don't hit the welds we just did, but basically put this in this general location. We'll just kind of tack weld it to the tank. And then same thing with this big heavy plate. We'll weld it or tack it or whatever. So what this does is this gives us mounting tabs, and by putting this thick piece on this piece, if I was to take this thick piece and put it right on here, if you ever got a high enough of an impact like during a wreck, this heavy steel could push into the thinner stuff and puncture it. So by putting this pad behind it, it helps spread the load out. This pad is the same thickness as this, so they're more likely to bend together, and neither one is stronger than the other. So by putting that between this, now if I was to grab this and really put a high load on it, it's way less likely, and what will probably happen is it'll just bend and it won't actually puncture the gas tank. So that's a safety item. Wasn't really required to hold the tank, but a little bit safer if you get in a wreck. Now what we also did was we threaded this. A couple reasons. One, you can just thread a bolt in, that's awesome, don't have to deal with a nut. And also it's low profile. So this is only a 1/4 inch thick. So I can run a piece of metal right up to this and put a bolt in, and it's just kind of a clean way of doing it. As you can see, we got the bolts above the frame. That makes it easy to access. If we were to put them anywhere down here, it would still work. It'd just be more difficult to access the bolts. Now, last thing is, we're gonna go ahead and get these things put on the gas tank, but after that, how are we gonna support it? So what I'm thinking, let's hide this fuel tank real quick. Well, anyway, what I'm thinking is we're going to come in here somewhere on the frame, maybe like in this area and this area, and drill and tap a hole, or drill a hole and pop a threaded insert into this. And that way we have threads present in our frame. And then at that point, what we'll do is we'll get like a piece of sheet metal, like a thin strip of sheet metal, and make like a long piece that either goes down and up or forward and back or something. And the idea being that it'll support the fuel tank. However, if you were to get into a wreck, it would allow the tank to move. Because if I was to get into a front end collision, you would expect all of this metal to like fold up and bend and deform, and that's fine. That's it. That's the frame doing its job, or the crash structure doing its job, absorbing energy, right? But what I don't want to do is turn the fuel tank into a crash structure to where it starts, it could potentially get damaged and leak fuel and turn a wreck into a fire. So by putting these on slightly flexible pieces of metal, it'll hold the tank under normal, racing and towing and all that stuff. But if you're getting to a wreck, they'll allow it to bend and move a little bit. So hopefully if the tank does see an impact, like say this crash structure moves 6 inches this way to the left. Yeah, so say this gets crushed from here to here. Well, it's going to try to occupy the space of the fuel tank. Hopefully the fuel tank will just move with it. And it'll be allowed to move because it's on those flexible straps. So anyway, that's the idea. So now we're going to get out to the shop and get to building all this. Alright guys, here's the parts. So that's our 1/4 inch pieces of plate. These already have a hole drilled in them, so I had these laser cut. So this is just a little tip for y'all. Whenever you get stuff laser cut, they can do the holes for you, which is nice. But there's a problem. If you ever have to tap this stuff, the laser basically hardens the steel. You can see the discoloration on this. Try to zoom in. That's some hard ass steel. If you try to run a tap in that, you're gonna have a good day or a bad day. It's gonna suck. Now I've done it, but it's way harder to tap, and this is already stainless. It's gonna suck to tap anyway. So what we're gonna do was I had them do it undersized, and I'm gonna run a drill bit, a good drill bit through here and bring it up to tap drill size. It's easier to drill steel than tap it. So I'm gonna drill out that hard stuff and then we'll thread these. But I gotta get these prepped. They gotta be cleaned as well. These are kind of dirty. I don't normally get parts this nasty from my laser cutter, but no big deal. We're gonna get all this cleaned up and prepped, get these ready, and then we can just go ahead and install these on the fuel tank. Oh yeah, I'll show you one other thing I did. Never done this, not sure if it works, but I just took electrical tape. So this is the hole right here under the tape where I had the hose hooked up for back purge, and then over here I had a vent hole. I just, while it was running the vent or the argon, I went ahead and taped it off and closed the valve at the same time, and in theory the tank is still full of argon, so maybe that saves a little argon. I don't know, not even sure if it worked. I guess if it's got a pinhole somewhere it probably all leaked out anyway, but figured it couldn't hurt. Alright guys, that's just now cooling off. It was glowing a second ago, but we got one side tacked up or welded out more or less how we're going to do it. So now we're going to flip it over and do the other side. Alright, so we just got done welding the other side. Looking pretty good. Going to get this cleaned up with a wire wheel, check our threads, make sure they look good, and we'll have our mounting tabs on. Alright, so here she is after cleaning them up. These look awesome, pretty happy with that. And I'll show you how these go together. So here's just a 1/4 bolt. And there she goes. So now I can just put a strap with a hole and bolt it right on. And of course we got two on the other side, so really good. Like how this is looking. Alright guys, couple things. So one, we officially have a rolling chassis. That may not sound like a lot, but this car has not rolled on its own wheels in probably a year. So, yay. Okay, moving on. Working on the fuel cell. So, we figured it'd be easy. Just throw it up there, make sure it's level, and it was not even close. So, why is that? Well, if you look at it just right, notice how the bottom is kind of like over here, a lot lower. Well, I forgot, but I designed it that way on purpose. That way, the fuel, as it drains, the fuel exit will be on this side of the tank. So if you ever drain the tank, you'll be able to get all the fuel out. Also, typically drag cars torque up like this when they're under power, so that tilt makes the fuel help go that way as well. It's like going with it. And then this direction, typically the car lifts, right? So I've already got the tank, instead of being dead level, it's tilted about 1.5 degrees this way. So everything I want to do is encourage the fuel to go this way, to this side, and back. And then at the very bottom of the tank, right here on this corner, that's where the hose is going to connect to the tank that goes to the fuel pump. Makes perfect sense. So because of that, I had to put a bunch of shims on one side of the tank to actually get the top of the tank to be level. And I use levels, straight edges, a digital thingy over there. Anyway, pretty happy with it. Like I said, on purpose, I've got the tank slightly this way, even though the bottom's already built that way, but I'd still put about 1/2 degree this way, just to be safe. So, we're looking at how to attach. It's not quite as easy as I was hoping. Obviously, we've got our threaded holes we just put in there, but we got to put some in on the frame. So, let me pick the car up and I'll show you where those are going to go. That'll do it. Okay, there's our fuel cell. Now if we come in here, right about where my thumb is. Come on, camera. I don't know why it won't focus. Anyway, there's a dot there, and there's one over here. And we're going to go in here and find the center of that area, drill it, put our threaded inserts in, and that's where the fuel tank's going to bolt up. And then we just got to build straps that go from the frame to the fuel cell. And I think we're going to use this, just some aluminum flat bar. Kind of thin, maybe a 1/16 thick. Should probably work. Don't know. Guess we'll try it. But anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so we just drilled our pilot holes. It was kind of out of focus, so I'm not sure if that's going to be in the video. But now we drill this final hole. So unfortunately, I don't have the right drill bit. The inserts I bought are, even though they're standard threads, the OD is a metric size. So I'm going to drill this with the closest bit I got, and then I'll have to wallow it out slightly so the inserts fit. But I'll show you how I drill steel. I always do low RPM and high load. There we go. Okay guys, so let me show you how these rivet nuts work. So you can get these inserts, this is like a kit of them, and here's the tool, and you put in the right thread here, and what you do, these things just thread on, like that. And now, it's just like a pop rivet. You stamp it in the hole, squeeze the handles, and it's inserted, and now you have threads. Let me show you that. Alright, so here's the tool. Hopefully this hole's big enough that this fits. I didn't actually check. Oh man. Let's try this one. Might should have checked. Oh, there we go. That one popped in. So now, squeeze the handles. That should be good. Spin this handle, which unthreads the pull stud from the rivet. There we go. Now you got a threaded hole in the frame that I can hook a bolt to. Pretty sweet. Okay guys, check it out. So fuel cell is in the car. The mounting brackets, basically the tank's been welded up, other than like the ports for adding and removing fuel and venting it and all that. But she's welded up, and we now have the brackets in the car. These turned out okay. This isn't how I originally planned on doing them, but this seemed like a better idea, and I'll just kind of show you. Maybe this shows up on video. Not really. It'll move laterally this way, like a little bit. Let me show you. There's a tiny bit of compliance in that direction, but this way, really nothing, and up and down, basically nothing. So I think it's good. There's 4 of them, so it's a little bit redundant as well if one of them were to fail. So pretty happy with it. Also, these brackets are incredibly light, and there's no nut. They just thread in, so that's awesome. Let's see, let's check out the front. This should be, you should see one side lower. Yep. Definitely see that left side, passenger side, is lower. If you bring the camera up, there's a good view. You can tell that corner hangs low, just like we intended. So, very nice. We got a fuel cell. So I started speccing. I haven't actually ordered the fittings that are going to go in the tank. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to build, or we're going to purchase these O-ring Boss weld-on flanges. And the reason we're going to do that is we'll have to purchase a fitting that threads into the ORB flange, right? But if we ever damage the AN fitting, we can unthread it from the gas tank and replace it. Whereas if I just buy, like, say, a 12 AN and weld it right to the tank, it actually gets rid of a connection. But if I ever strip that connection, then you're kind of screwed, because it's welded to the tank. You can't just pop it out and fix it. It's going to be a nightmare to fix. So putting O-ring Boss into the tank and then threading fittings in makes serviceability a lot easier. So we're going to do it that way. But anyway, I guess that's going to wrap this up. Super happy to get that tank put together and into the car. That was one of the biggest projects, short of like wiring the car up as far as custom goes, was getting that tank built. We've already done the CAD modeling and taken a lot of measurements. So our front bumper should fit, our headlights. We actually tested those when we mocked up the tank, so I know the headlights fit. So the bumper should fit, and we should be good. So anyway, Till next time, you guys take it easy.